A very good evening to you, race fans, and welcome back to Simple Racing Broadcast, where tonight we bring you the final round of the MC Motorsport Easy Motorcycle Spares GT3 Championship, round 10, reaching its finale tonight as we arrive at the legendary Autodromo Nazionale Monza. It is, of course, Monza, a track that is known intimately, honestly, by just about anyone who's ever stepped into any sim racing game that you can name over the last 20 years, I reckon. It is such a well-known track, and so well-known especially for GT3 racing. It's high speed, it's heavy braking, it's one of the most treacherous chicanes that you'll find just about anywhere except perhaps Adelaide from earlier this week, and we are here for it. My name's Jared Cole. Joining me in the booth tonight is Josh Harris. And Josh, it is great to be back here with you once again, mate. It's been a while.
It has been a while. Thank you, Jared. Thank you for having me in the booth tonight, and hello to everyone at home. Pretty cool that I get to come along, to be honest, Jared, and you know, fill what are realistically a couple of pretty big boots in Ewan's, but season finale at the Temple of Speed, GT3 cars, just probably doesn't get much better, does it?
No, and it is going to be a fun one. We had all sorts of shenanigans, let's say, earlier this week when we took the V8 Supercars to Adelaide, and I kind of feel like Monza's going to be potentially pretty much the same. That first chicane it's so well known for the drama that it causes in just about any class of racing that you bring here, and with so much on the line tonight for so many drivers, I can't imagine it's going to be any different here tonight.
No, certainly lap one, the drivers are just going to have to respect that turn one chicane. It's a fantastic passing opportunity once you get up and going, but really has the potential for someone to do a little bit of 10-pin bowling down there on the first lap, and we don't want to see that. You know, it's a pretty close championship battle. Reece Wakefield's got one hand on the trophy, but really what we want to see tonight is a fair, clean fight all the way to the end. It would be really disappointing for anyone involved in the championship for there to be, you know, turn one, lap one incidents that kind of ruin it a little bit. Yeah,
it'd be a horrible way for it to finish for a lot of drivers. Before we do get into the championship standings. So let's take a look at the setup for this evening. This is a feature round to finish us off. So 2 races here tonight, 15 laps in the first race, and then a 30-lap second race with a reverse top 10 grid. As always, the car setups are fixed and there is a 50% fuel restriction in play. So we are expecting to see 1 pit stop in the second race tonight. The question will be when we see that come into play and whether indeed a safety car comes out at the right time to really shake things up. Anything can happen. Monza thankfully has enough runoff that I don't think we'll see too much involvement from race control behind the wheel of the safety car, but you never know. You never know what you're going to get when you do come racing here. Weather conditions are looking generally pretty nice. I don't think the drivers will have too much of anything to worry about. Let's take a look though at the standings as we come into this final round for this season. And Reece Wakefield, as you said, Josh, one hand on the trophy, 102 points of lead here. It is... Look, it's possible for Daniel Macron to overtake him here, but with 20 entries in the field tonight, it would require something pretty spectacular. It would require a massive hardware failure or something along those lines to take Reece out in both races. And then Daniel Macron would still have to pretty well win both races to really have a shot at overcoming that gap in points. It's an absolutely commanding lead, and it really just does show how commanding Reece has been all season. And even saying that, Daniel Macron, he's not far behind either, is he? And really, I can't see anything other than a 1-2 for Wakefield and Macron here. It's mathematically impossible for those guys to not end up at the top of the podium. The other one, Thomas Searle, I can't see any way that he can really fall out of third place either. So it's really just deciding the order of the podium.
Yeah, absolutely. Reece's, it's scary how fast Reece is, Jared. I would suggest that this season Reece has probably had more bad luck than any other season that I've seen him in with MC, and he's still got a 100-point lead at the start of the final round.
Unbelievable.
Look, it is pretty unbelievable. MC has a 0 points for DNF policy, so it's not impossible. Reece has a hardware failure in race 1 that means that he doesn't finish and then doesn't start race 2. That's no points. It's not hard to rack up 100 points here. That's only 2 decent results. So Reece needs to circulate tonight. Regardless of what happens to him, he has to stay out on track and just keep turning laps and make sure that he greets that checkered flag. But if he can just keep his nose clean, he will be absolutely fine. As you said, Daniel Macron's the only one that can even get a hand on him, and those guys are up the front in qualifying at the moment. But if Reece finishes the races, I can't see any change in the table. But that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of intrigue tonight. There's plenty to play down the order for some of the minor positions, and of course, it's one of the best tracks in the world, and so these guys will just be happy to be out there racing, to be honest.
Absolutely. A couple of ones worth noting tonight. Jeremy Washington sitting in 5th. It doesn't look as though Danny Davison's going to make it here tonight. So as long as Washington can greet the flag in both races, I'd expect him to actually jump up into 4th spot. A few close potential little battles going on there. Michael Whiting, Chris Lashbrook and Kane Ryder, 6th, 7th and 8th. All separated by only 20 points from 6th to 8th, so keep your eye on those 3 here tonight. Liam Jensen's pretty well got the AM Cup sewn up here. He's a long way ahead of Liam Tipping and can't... There's just no way. There's no way for him to lose that. But you'll have to keep an eye out for Ian Ward and Patrick Frame to stay inside that top 10 overall as well tonight. James Doyle and Chris Miller, they could battle it out for a bit of a swap of places there. So, bragging rights always on the line, even if it's not for the top of the championship at the end of the season. There's always something to be gained by, throwing it all at this final race and trying to pick up as many points as you possibly can. As you said, though, Reece Wakefield, Daniel Macron out there and qualifying at the moment right up the top of that with just a couple minutes left in the qualifying session. So it's going to be a very, very interesting race for a few drivers here tonight. And I will draw everyone's attention to the YouTube chat where we've got race control just poking a bit of a sharp stick my way by the sound of things.
That's all right. I've got one back for you.
Look, I think I've said a number of times that the reason I ended up here in commentary is because I couldn't keep up with the pace in the MC Motorsport field, and that was back in season 1. You look at, I guess you look back at season 5 now for the GT3s, and pretty similar for the V8s. The pace that has evolved in the MC Motorsport field of drivers is just phenomenal, to the point where we've got some of the top Australian drivers competing here each and every week. I think I made the right call getting out early, honestly.
Yeah, it's a really disappointing part of my life, Jared, that, I feel like I'm constantly improving in my racing. When MC started, I'd only been on iRacing for probably 3 months. And so I think that I'm constantly getting better and better and better. But as MC grows, I'm falling further and further and further down the finishing grid every single time I race, which is really disappointing to feel like I'm getting better and just not seeing anything for it, because gee whiz, across all of the MC series these days, there's a couple of genuinely fast people.
Yeah, no two ways about it. There are some super quick drivers, and you keep coming back to Reece Wakefield and the performance that he's put on. The fact that he's ended up so far ahead really does not give credit to the pace that has been there all season. He may have won the bulk of the races, but the guys that are up that top end have been genuinely quick as well, and the times that they're running are not actually all that far off what you're seeing with Wakefield out in front. It's just that he's been so consistent. Race control just throwing down the gauntlet, a race control versus commentators race. Look, not the worst idea ever, although the last time I jumped in an MC race, I think I ended up upside down, didn't I? Pretty sure that was the last one.
Yeah, it was. That it was only a couple of weeks ago, Jared, that a few of us sat down and I introduced one Isaac Fogarty to the MC birthday bash that we had 12 months ago, where you attempted to race a supercar around Daytona, and I pretty successfully took you out on a couple of occasions. So that was a lot of fun.
It's been that long, I don't even remember that one. There you go. Wow, the disappointments of my racing career are so quickly forgotten. Anyhow, let's get into it for tonight, folks. We hope you're ready for this. The culmination of what has been an awesome season of racing. The qualifying results are in, and we do have our grid for race number 1. And with no massive surprise, Reece Wakefield takes pole here tonight. Jeremy Washington alongside him, with McCrowan and Doyle on row 2. Then Trent Thomas and Thomas Searle on row number 3. Liam Jensen and Mick Poley behind them, with Patrick Frame and Thomas Cool rounding out the top 10. Behind them, Reece Gardner and Mitch Curry line up on row 6, with Troy Maguire and Michael Whiting, an all fishy row 7, ahead of Chris Lashbrook and Ian Ward, ADHD, taking up row 8. Then James Foster and Dean Powell, with Lucas Baker and Christian Chachenko, the last of the drivers on track here tonight. And it's one of those times where I'm probably a little grateful for a smaller field, because that first chicane with 30 or 40 cars would be pretty interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, look, it's going to be interesting anyway. Yeah, and all it takes is someone down the back to make a mistake, and there's pretty big issues from there. It's the battle that we expected up the front. I'll be interested to see if Washington plays any rear gunner style stuff for Mr. Wakefield. They are ex-teammates and reasonably good friends, so it'll be interesting to see whether Jeremy does do just a little bit of assisting for Reece to get out in front and put a bolt on. But anyway, it's a pretty quick race, this first one. It's only 15 laps. This is a very, very fast track, Jared. Takes a little while to get around it, but it's quick. There's not much going on, and yeah, absolutely, it's very, very fast, and so this will happen pretty quickly, I think.
It will, and look, this is one of the great things about coming racing here in GT3s is just how much you actually finally get to see the aero at play, and how many passes you can get done thanks to that aero that just doesn't come in as often as you'd think in GT3 racing is there's only a few tracks where you really get a good long run to get some speed up and make an overtake because of it, and this is definitely one of them. Let's head on down to the grid and see how our drivers are doing. We are only a matter of seconds away from a race start here as we wait for just a couple of final drivers to get up onto the grid. Just waiting now, I believe, on Patrick Frame in ninth, so that should be pretty well right in front of us there that we'll see him pop into view when he is ready to go as we get to the last few seconds, although he might decide, I suppose, to start from the pits. And this is one of those tracks where maybe that's not such an awful idea, just for safety's sake, if nothing else. As it stands, we've got everyone else on the grid and we are looking ready to go as we get ready to hand on over to the starter to get us underway for 15 laps here in heat number 1. The lights are up. We've got a green flag at the back of the field. We are ready to go. And we are green and underway as Wakefield and Washington lead us on down towards the chicane for the first time. I don't know about you, Josh, but I am predicting absolute carnage. Let's see if we can get everyone sorted out here. We're still 2 and 3 wide as we get down towards it for the first time, and hopefully getting through cleanly. It'll be interesting to see if we do, because we're getting 3 wide through the chicane still as everyone gets slowed right down and tries to negotiate. I think we've made it through relatively safely, although quite a few drivers losing positions towards the back of this pack as we do finally settle into a bit of a racing line. And you talk about high-speed tracks, have a look at it already after that first chicane. Wakefield leading us off, McCrone still in second, Jeremy Washington right behind them as we get through the second chicane in a much more orderly fashion. The field just starting to settle in now for what will be, I am sure, a pretty hotly contested opening few laps. Thomas Searle still hanging on to 4th. He's up 2 spots since the start. Mitch Curry's up 3 and into 9th as well. So that opening little stanza has paid off for a couple of these drivers already.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not 100% sure what happened at turn 1, but Chris Lashbrook unfortunately was facing the wrong way at one point, but everyone else did manage to get through there cleanly. Challenging first lap here, Jared. I did a couple of GT3 races here. Oh, as we see there, looks like
Thomas
is that
Searle?
Searle?
Yep, just overcooking it on the cold tyres.
I was just about to say, Jared, that I did a couple of races a few weeks ago in a GT3, and the first couple of laps, we're used to these GT3s taking longer these days to get their tyres up to temp. But this, this layout at Monza, there's really not much turning. There is a couple of really high load corners that generate some temp, but it actually takes even longer than you might otherwise expect to get the temps into the tyres here. And lap 1 really is a challenge. There's not a whole heap of temp going on in lap 1, and very easy to make that mistake that Thomas Searle did. A shame to see him all the way down towards the back after qualifying so well, but he is pretty quick, and we would expect to see him battle his way back through. Everyone else, though, Jared, appears to have settled nicely into a little rhythm. And one thing that you'll notice is everybody's grouped together all the way down to Baker in 16th, and this track really is a high horsepower, high drafting kind of track. So unfortunately, Baker will probably struggle to catch back up to Dean Power, but for everyone else, they're locked in a really fun nose-to-tail battle, and I think that you'll see that throughout the whole night tonight, Jared.
Have a look at that front 3 though already. Wakefield, McCrone and Washington 3 seconds ahead of Trent Thomas and the Trick Esports Mercedes. This group may stretch through most of the field, but the front 3 have absolutely started to pull away already as we get into just the tail end of the second lap here. Trent Thomas leading this group at the moment under some pressure from the Koala Cartel boys and Doyle and Jensen. Mick Polly's right there. Mitch Curry's up into 8th as well. So yeah, it absolutely will be a bit of a drafting kind of affair for a little while. You can see Lucas Baker just rounding the corner all the way back there. That said, something that always comes to mind when we come to Monza is those sausage curbs and just the impact they can play when people do try and cut these corners just a little bit too closely. It would be the first time that we see a car get spat out of one of these corners sideways thanks to those curbs.
Yeah, it's difficult. You need to be really careful here at Monza that you don't go for a move that puts you offline, out of position, and you lose touch with the train. It's a little bit like Daytona in that sense. You're often better to sit in that train of cars until you know that you can break free. And what we just saw a moment ago was Doyle made a really decisive move there on Trent Thomas, and he hasn't bolted up the road, but looks like he's got enough speed that he might actually break away from the pack.
Yeah, and that's the thing. All it takes is just the right move at the right time. You can start to pull away as well. And even here at the front end of the field, Jeremy Washington is really struggling to stay with McCrone, who in turn is just starting to see Wakefield creep away. It doesn't take much to fall out of the back of the slipstream of one of these cars, and when you do that here at Monza, it just compounds the impact so massively. Reece Gardner finds himself tucked in behind Mitch Curry at the moment, and there's a bit to play for in this mid pack. Not a lot separating them all, and I don't think we've seen the end of this by any stretch of the imagination. Although it could quite easily become a bit of a procession from here. I doubt that's what we're going to end up with by the time we're done with race one. A big hello to everyone out there in the YouTube chat. It's always good to have you all along. A fair bit of Comms vs RC race conversation going on while we were getting all set up here this evening. And a big hello to Scott Stevens as well from the RSANZ chat show, who has checked in for the evening. And look, it is the first time in a while we've seen Josh back in the booth, and it almost feels like the first time in a while I've been back in the booth, honestly. I've been away for a few of the last few rounds, but keeping an eye on a fair bit of this as well. What happened to 114? James Foster copying a 10-second penalty for early contact, and I believe that might have been with Chris Lashbrook. We'll go back, we'll take a look at that in just a sec. He's also come into the pits and I believe had some damage repaired potentially as well. So we'll see if we can see what might have been behind that. Let's go back to it now. The iRap Designs replay will show us he's gone very wide here and then comes up the inside, bit of contact there, and then even more contact and pushes Lashbrook around. I wonder if maybe there's just a bit of damage sustained from Chachenko getting into the back of him there. In any case, Foster has found himself going down pit lane, and the suspension on these GT3s, it doesn't take much at the right angle to cause some damage. It does see it needing to get some repairs done.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that the slap across the wrist there from race control will have a bit to do with just how far off track it did appear that he was, but alas, the 10-second penalty, not going to be the biggest issue in the world for Mr. Foster, unfortunately, given that he has been through the pits and is some 16 seconds off the back of the car in front, but he will keep circulating. And hopefully he is able to resume in race two, get back into the back of the pack and go and do a little bit of racing. I would like to say as well, as you mentioned, Scott Stevens is in the chat. Scott is not only the second fastest podcaster that we've got here at MC, but he's definitely one of the very best livery designers. I'm not sure whether he did Trent's there that we've got on screen at the moment, but he certainly did the pink and blue ADHD cars, and I think that I can say without any bias at all that they are probably the best looking cars on track.
Well, no bias, none at all. I'm sure,
none at all.
None at all, and we'll hear nothing of it. Always good to have a look. What happened to Trent's team name though? He's since moved on from Trick Esports. Yeah, look, we do tend to lock in the team names behind the scenes here, so the updates to the app often don't flow through, as we see Dean Pear in the background going for a big slide. So that would probably explain it, but something that I'll definitely have a look into and see if we can get that updated throughout this evening. Thomas, though, all over the back of James Doyle. He's thinking about having another go at this, and this is always the fun part about tracks like Monza, where you do have such long straights, so much aero going on. It is a massive opportunity for a few back and forth passes to be made. It's not quite as let's say straightforward and blatant as the new F1 battery management systems make it, but certainly does come into play here a bit as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the interesting things, it looks to me like like this big pack here is actually running Washington down slightly, even though they're, having a bit of a battle. They're doing a really good job of, for the most part, working together. They're certainly not banging doors and, massively slowing each other down. I think that these guys are all reasonably aware that, getting to the end of the race as fast as possible is what they want to do. Although we do now see Trent Thomas just immediately takes the position back off of Liam Jensen. Liam had a fantastic run into the Parabolica, and and Trent just said, no thanks, I think I'll have that back. That does allow Doyle to take a small escape up the road. But we look at Jeremy Washington, who really is running all on his own, and that lap's not necessarily showing the whole picture. He was reasonably faster, but he is certainly not going to be running at the sort of speed on his own that these guys have the potential to run at if they just work together.
Yeah, and it's actually surprising to see just how well these guys are sticking with it. I mean, it's one of those tracks that makes it fairly easy to do, but it can so quickly fall apart, and you're almost starting to see that happen a little bit here as Liam Jensen falls back off Trent Thomas, and in turn Mick Polly's starting to fall off a little bit. I suspect we're going to see a bit of a break in this group as Thomas makes a brilliant move up the inside of Doyle, just carried a little bit of extra speed there, moves out in front, and now he's going to take the lead of this pack, does bring Liam Jensen back into it, and Mick Polly's managed to stick with him. So again, this field is going to compress up here in this battle for fourth that actually runs all the way back to Troy Maguire in 14th, with a potential bit of movement back here as well, as we see Patrick Frame getting pretty close in behind Mick Whiting. There's not a lot in it here for these two, and possibly even a run for Whiting, for Frame down the front straight here as well. Further up though, James Doyle and Liam Jensen now just trying desperately to hold together in the two Mustangs, and maybe even a little bit of bump drafting going on there between the two teammates to try and stay in touch with Thomas, who just seems to have so much extra pace down that front straight.
Yeah, those Mercs definitely have long legs. As we do look back here, and we see one of the other Koala Cartel cars. Not sure who that is, Thomas Cool. By the look of it, putting a move on Reece Gardner. These guys will continue throughout this whole pack. They'll continue to swap backwards and forwards, but hopefully we see that train stay together in that nice big group of 10 cars. As we see here, Ian Ward, the race pig, puts a really nice move there on Patrick Frame into the second of the two chicanes. It is a really, really fun corner, that one. Although, for those who hang around in the Discord, Mr. Frame did show us a little bit of a picture today of what he hopes not to do in that second chicane tonight. The sausage curbs on the inside of the second part of that chicane are not particularly forgiving, Jared.
No, they're not. They're not at all, and really that's the case all the way around this track. If I'm not mistaken, they did a little bit of rework of this track a few seasons back, didn't they? And those curbs almost grew in size, I think. Or perhaps I'm remembering a different track, but in any case, the sausage curbs at Monza have always played their part in keeping drivers honest through a lot of these turns, and so they should. Speaking of keeping honest, given that you're here as a pseudo representative of ADHD, I've got a bit of a question for you, Josh. Why is it, do you suppose, that Ian Ward has elected not to use the official ADHD paintwork on that Corvette, given that we know that one Ryan Palmer put so much time and effort into it?
Well, you see, Ian has far more respect for the team than to run that absolute abomination that Ryan put together. And I will take the opportunity to publicly apologise to Scott Stevens for that absolute disaster that Ryan called a livery. I hope that you continue to offer your artistic services to us, mate, because what Ryan proved is that we absolutely need it.
That would be somewhat of an understatement, I suspect, for anyone who has seen the... well, I don't even know what to call it. I want to call it handiwork, but that implies some level of skill, doesn't it? In any case, maybe I don't know. Maybe it's for the best. Ian's probably got a bit more pace than he would otherwise, weighed down with all those random stickers and extra layers of paint that are on that thing. But anyway, Patrick Frame takes the spot, and Troy Maguire right in behind and giving almost a bit of a nudge along as they get side by side here. There's almost contact, and you've got to be so careful at these speeds. It doesn't take much to spin one of them around and then find 2 or 3 cars taken out here, but they get it sorted again before they reach the next chicane, and that's really the story for Monza, isn't it? It's a bunch of straights interrupted by a couple of chicanes where you have to get your racing line really back in order before you try and negotiate the few corners that you do have here, or it just ends in disaster for everybody.
Yeah, and really importantly, we were just talking about the sausage curves before. You need to know which ones you can hit and which ones you can't. There is a couple of curves here at Monza that you absolutely extract some lap time out of by hitting them, but not all of them, and so you need to know which ones it is. As we see there, Ian and Troy do swap positions. I know Piggy. Oh, there's a koala car facing backwards just in front.
That's Thomas Cool.
Thomas Cool, by the look of that. Not 100% sure what's going on there. I just caught the tail of that on my own screen. But yes, unfortunately, koalas heading back to their natural habitat in the bush in that instance. But hopefully there wasn't too much assistance in that.
I suspect there's probably been a little bit of contact. The iRacing results replay will show us Thomas Cool up the inside, Mitch Curry around the outside. And it looks like Cool maybe just turning back across a little too early there. Still a little bit of overlap, and ends up facing the wrong way in the pity litter for his efforts.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit of a closed door. That's a shame. I did just hear in my headset, Mitch Curry's actually called that in. Mitch Curry, one of the few blokes in this league who will self-report things to, for people to go and have a bit of a look at. Curry's just asked for race control to have a real quick squeeze at that and just make sure that he didn't do anything wrong. But I haven't really, my gut tells me that was unfortunately Thomas just turning in a little bit too early, as we see now. Mitch putting a move on Reece Gardner. He's trying to continue his march forward. We'll see what the legs on the Corvette are like out of Parabolica and down this big long straight, but I have a feeling that there's not much here tonight, Jared, that is a match for those AMG Mercedes.
Yeah, they're always very, very quick when you get them on a long straight. That final turn too, it's so important to get the right line and keep your speed up for this run down towards turn 1. You can see Mick Whiting probably having the better run through that final corner, gets ahead of Mitch Curry pretty easily by the time they get to the chicane. It's such a tricky corner to balance the pace and grip that's available there, and really if you don't get it right, then the Mercs are just going to walk all over you down the straight. It's a really, really tough one to nail in anything else, and that's just one of the fun parts about GT3 racing, right? Is that all of these cars have their little quirks, have their little bits of advantage and disadvantage, and one of the Merc happens to be straight line speed.
Yeah, and more than straight line speed, Jared, is it's just got so much grunt. So for a driver like myself who doesn't have a huge amount of natural skill, it does help me, compensate for a few small mistakes by, just having all that power to get out of the corners. And, we see comments in the YouTube talking about Mick Poley up in 7th at the moment in the Porsche, really punching above his weight. The Porsche is fantastic at a number of things, going fast, as in top speed isn't necessarily one of them. And I would probably hold the same opinion that tonight being up in 7th is probably, that Porsche punching above its weight. And that is just Mick doing an absolutely fantastic job of keeping the thing facing forwards. But, if it was me here tonight, I'd love to be in one of those Mercs and able to, just quietly cover up my lack of outright skill.
And that's the thing, right? Across the course of a season, there are going to be tracks where the Merc just dominates because of that speed and that grunt out of corners. And there are other tracks where it's just an absolute wallowing land barge with it that you can't get around any circuit. And that's just one of the joys of a full season of racing. It makes it look easy here, but you go to half the other tracks on the calendar and you really have a hard time with the thing. So it's all about choosing the car that best suits you as a driver. I haven't quite found a GT3 that makes me even remotely competitive yet, so I'm still on the hunt for one. But maybe one day, you never know.
It's an interesting thing that you say too, Jared, because I love the Merc, but I really drive on the throttle. So, you know, torquey, V8 power, rear-wheel drive, it really suits me down to a T. The Mustang's not too bad, but I just find that I can't get the Mustang to turn, whereas the Merc does. Blokes like Mitch Curry and even Ryan Palmer, to be fair, they really turn on the brakes, not on the throttle, and so Mitch had a crack at the Merc and genuinely felt like he just could not drive the thing at all, which is surprising. And as you said, kind of a fun thing about GT3, you can not only find cars that suit different tracks, but you can find cars that suit you as a driver.
The closest thing I've come so far to finding one that suits me, Josh, is the Lamborghini, because it sounds the best. That's about the only viable trait that I can make any use of.
Look, when you've got zero skill in all of them, you've got to find the one thing that differentiates them, and exactly if that sound, well, so be it.
you got to take the wins where you can find them, mate. That is
Absolutely.
about it. As we see Mick Whiting and Mitch Curry and Patrick Frame as well getting all sorts of caught up in that first chicane. Everyone out the other side of it, okay. Something we've kept a bit of an eye on here. It's just been increasing. Wakefield out in front has managed to drop McCrowan a few laps ago. They were still within about a second of each other. But McCrowan's just dropped out of the slipstream, and this is what you start to see. It's already at 2.5 seconds back to Daniel McCrowan, and I don't think he's got any hope of catching up that margin at the moment. Curry's looking up the inside now of Whiting, and they're going to go door to door all the way out to the edge of that curbing. A bit of a nudge on the way back in as Mick Whiting starts to just insist on a bit of racing room there, and Curry's going to have to drop in behind. That's just thrown him enough offline that he's lost a little bit of pace there. And now Patrick Frame has another think about it. He's using every bit of that Mercedes grunt to stay in touch with these two as they battle it out. Ian Ward behind, maybe just, watching on, hoping for 2 or 3 spots to come his way.
Yeah, I think that if you're Ian Ward, you're really enjoying this little battle form up, and hoping that these guys continue to bang into each other's doors, because that's how Piggy's going to get himself a couple of positions. As we see Curry once again sticks a nose out and has to think about it. But look to me there, it's hard to tell from that shot. Look to me there like Michael Whiting might have just went very, very deep under brakes, but what he did manage to do was get it pulled up. But look at that. We see that toe come into effect. This track is so fast, Jared, and it is a lot of fun that as long as you're somewhere near the car in front, that you're going to be able to range back up on the back of it. And Curry there does a wonderful job through the first of the 2 chicanes, and I think that we're going to see him try and get a nice run through Lesmo 1 and 2 and have another crack into Ascari on this lap.
Yeah, he needs to keep an eye out the back as well, though, because just hanging around, Patrick Frame's still unable to be shaken at the moment, and goes very deep, big nudge into the back of Curry, spins him, and up and over the curb goes Mitch Curry. Just a little bit heavy under brakes there, a little bit late under brakes perhaps for Patrick Frame. He's not going to hang around to redress that, because it'll probably end up costing him more than the penalty at this point. That's going to be really, really disappointing for Curry. He was all over the back of Whiting, and a bit of a nudge there has sent him completely the opposite direction.
Yeah, I think that's a slam dunk penalty, that one. It's a bit of a shame for Mitch. Mitch was hanging around right at the back of the top 10 there, and should have been on for a really good starting race too, but unfortunately just gets a tap in the bum. And as you said, Patrick Frame not going to hang around and redress that one. Sometimes it's just better to take your penalty and get on with racing. Mitch Curry there, he won't have any damage. He has just fallen a long way down the line.
And that's the other challenging part of a track like Monza, right? When it's so high speed, realistically, a fairly small incident like that, it'll take you all the way to the back of the field. No problems at all if it's at the wrong spot, and there's not many right spots to be facing the other way at Monza. It's going to catch you out and send you a long way down through the field, pretty much no matter where you end up, as we see Maguire and Powell alongside each other. I think Troy Maguire will have the best of this, gets in front, and he'll get on the brakes, and Dean Powell will just have to follow him through turn one here. Mitch Curry another second and a half behind these two. But he'll be looking to catch up and try and salvage a position or two if he can. No such problems out in front for Reece Wakefield, all on his own, just enjoying the drive at the moment. And if this doesn't sum up his season, much like we've seen in race after race after race from him, I don't know what else does. Just absolute miles between him and whoever's coming in second in most of the races by the time you get to this stage. It's really interesting to watch, isn't it? Like Wakefield just he'll have the other guys in second and third with him for the first probably third to a half of a race, and then all of a sudden he'll just it's like he puts the foot down, finds an extra gear, and just disappears off into the distance.
I'm not sure whether it's necessarily that Reece disappears off into the distance, or what he really shows is his ability to do absolutely top-notch qualifying pace laps, just lap after lap after lap. We see him, I've been watching the times for the last few laps, and Reece is consistently the fastest car on track every single lap, even though he's on his own. It's just super impressive, the consistency that Reece punches out lap after lap after lap.
Yeah, no denying that. I mean, a best lap of 45.7, his last lap of 46.7, just lap after lap within a second from best to worst, really. And I hazard a guess that was probably one of his worst laps that he's just had there as he gets towards the end of it, which really does say something about his consistency, as you say, over the course of a full race distance. Only a couple of battles here really left to sort themselves out on this final lap. Reece Wakefield, of course, out in front will take this win pretty easily. Patrick Frame only has a couple of opportunities left, and here he goes, sends it on Ian Ward. A little bit of contact, as Ward probably wasn't expecting him to go quite so deep there. Thomas Searle now an opportunity to maybe have a crack at this as well. Patrick Frame still has his nose in front. Ward is going to try and go around the outside, opens the door up in a big way, and Thomas Searle goes through as well. Ian Ward, unfortunately, costing himself another position there. And Patrick Frame, I think at this point, will probably hold on to ninth place as well. There's not much of an opportunity here for Thomas Searle, but he'll have one more crack at this as we get very much close to Reece Wakefield crossing the line to take the win here in race number one. As he comes around the final turn, there it is. Wakefield takes the win in race one, as we've seen so many times. Danny McCrowan in P2 will come home, and Jeremy Washington, a fair way further back, will take P3 as well, as he comes across the line there with Trent Thomas in fourth, and then the two Koala Cartel cars. Although Mick Poley looks like he's going to get a run out of the final turn. He's going to pick up one last spot, comes home in sixth and splits the Koala Cartel cars. Mick Whiting will come home in eighth as Patrick Frame leads the group of three home. Thomas Searle and Ian Ward behind them. Then Chris Lashbrook will be, he's struggling to get home here. Surely he's not run out of fuel.
Yeah, yep. I reckon, Jared, so that's the second Mustang that I've seen that was really just chug-a-lugging along. And there's a number of cars parked up. I've got a feeling we gave these guys, so that the cap that we give them is based on, roughly 30 minutes of racing. But of course, Monza uses so much fuel because of the, just the enormous percentage of open, wide open throttle racing. And so I just think that they've run out of fuel, and I have just heard in my ear now that Chris Lashbrook definitely out of fuel, Jared. So this is going to make race 2, which is 50 minutes, very, very interesting, because some of these guys are going to have to absolutely nail their strategy to basically run out of fuel twice.
Yeah, absolutely right. And that is one of the things that we haven't really had to account quite so much for, because most of the tracks are relatively easy to get around with that fuel load. But as you say, just the flat out nature and just the simple air friction that they're fighting through at the high speeds here at Monza just chews so much extra fuel. And sure enough, we saw a couple of drivers falling just short of that. Wakefield takes the win ahead of McCrowan, then Washington and Thomas, with Jensen and Polly behind. James Doyle coming home in 7th with Mick Whiting and Patrick Frame behind them. Thomas Searle rounds out the top 10 with Ian Ward and Mitch Curry behind. Then Troy Maguire and Chris Lashbrook rolls across the line in 14th. Lucas Baker and Thomas Cool behind him. Dean Power in 17th. Reece Gardner, I noticed, did come into the pits with just a lap or two to go. So another one struggling a bit with fuel in that Mercedes. So it's certainly not just a Ford thing. But James Foster and Christian Kachenko coming home in 19th and 20th will round out the final results for race number 1. A really interesting one. As you say, the fuel might play a bit more of an issue here in race 2 than we potentially originally anticipated. You'd usually expect it to be a single stopper over 30 laps, but maybe a little bit closer to 2 stops less fuel saving is something that these drivers are really aware of.
Yeah, look, I think that they'll fuel save and make it home. I think that the interesting thing is going to be that, this race, look, maybe not one. I think that Reece has definitely got the ability to do a bit of fuel saving and still set the fastest laps. But for a lot of people, you might be able to jump a couple of positions by saving a few seconds worth of fuel. So, a big strat here is going to be working out how many, tenths of a second per lap do you give up to save enough fuel, so that you can make it all the way home on only one stop. We've already seen Jeremy Washington and Mitch Curry both in the chat. Jeremy commenting just how well Trent did to be able to get his car all the way home.
Yeah, really interestingly, it is not outside the realm of possibility to tap into a little bit of info in between races, and I can tell you that the fastest lap for Reece Wakefield in that race used just over 3.5 litres of fuel. Most of his race was about 3.3 litres to 3.4 litres. So there's a little bit of fuel saving to be done in that. But when we consider the full tank's about 55 litres, somewhere around there.
They do vary, but it will be somewhere around 50 to 55 litres, depending on which car it is.
So we're talking, pretty close to 15 laps being the limit of these fuel tanks. So race 2 at 30 laps, if you're not doing some fuel saving, you're going to really struggle with this one. So hopefully the drivers have learned from that in race 1. Now, to his credit, Jeremy Washington currently holds the second fastest lap here for our Garage 61 times that have come through. Interesting difference in fuel for Washington. His fastest laps in that Merc chewing around 3.7 litres. So a pretty significant difference in fuel usage, and look, hopefully the fuel tank size makes a difference more than anything, but it is very interesting as Washington checks in. He had to save an entire lap here for race number 1 tonight. Race 2 is going to be an interesting one for him, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's just going to be down to the guys seeing how well they can do it. They're going to have to save 2 laps in this race. They're going to have to save a lap per stint. And I think if anybody only makes it to the end of lap 14 and they feel they've got to come in, that could be a huge challenge. And if they can only get 14 laps twice, they're 2 laps short of home. So I think there'll be a couple of people praying for a safety car in this race.
I can't see it happening though. I mean, you look at that first race. There really wasn't anything in that would have come even close to requiring a safety car, despite the couple of incidents that did happen. Even if you do get a massive collision here, I can't see it being enough to need a safety car in most instances. There's so much clearance around this track.
Yeah, look, it's not really a safety car prone track, short of something pretty crazy lap 1, turn 1. Yeah, we'll wait and we'll see what happens.
The thing that might play into that, though, is, of course, the reverse top 10 grid for race number 2. This is how it looks. Thomas Searle and Patrick Frame will take the front row ahead of Mick Whiting and James Doyle. Then Polly and Jensen in the middle in row 3 will swap positions. Trent Thomas and Jeremy Washington behind them, with Danny McCron and Reece Wakefield sitting at the back of the top 10 for this second race. The rest of the field will be as they finish, so Ian Ward and Mitch Curry on row 6, then Troy Maguire and Chris Lashbrook ahead of Lucas Baker and Thomas Cool, Dean Powell and Reece Gardner on row 9, then James Foster and Christian Chachenko will round out the total of the field here. 20 drivers. Well, look, I mean, are they all going to make it home for this race? That is the big question at the moment. I really hope they've been paying attention throughout race 1, because they're going to need to be thinking about that fuel save right from the start here this evening. And I don't know. I reckon it's pretty easy to get caught up in the red mist and maybe just let it wander from your mind a little bit. But with about a minute to go, I reckon there's a few of them that are just trying to figure out what exactly they're going to do here for race 2 and to try and make it home across 30 laps.
Yeah, it's brought a whole new interesting dynamic to this. It's going to be a lot of fun, and of course, we do reset ourselves and immediately look to the potential carnage at race 1. We've only got about 30 seconds to go, and it's going to be pretty interesting to see how things go.
Well, with just about 20 odd seconds left here, I'm not entirely convinced that everyone's going to have this strategy down pat at this point. We saw a couple of drivers run pretty much dry in race 1, which says to me they weren't expecting it. Whether or not they've got the understanding to address it for race 2, we're about to find out as we go to the lights. And we are underway for race number 2. Searle and Frame will lead us down towards the chicane for the first time. Already Lucas Baker starting to drop back through the field as he gets a slow start. But look at how spread out we are coming in to the chicane for the first time. This is going to be very interesting. That reverse top 10 always creates some issues as we come through, and Searle gets himself out in front. Everyone else really checking up here to avoid any contact, and it looks like we might get through without too much of an issue this time. But look at the lead that Searle's already managed to take. Whiting just getting caught up a little bit as the rest of the field flies through behind. Reece Wakefield, you saw flash by for just a moment there. He's in 9th, so still in the back part of this front 10 that had that grid reversal. We get through the second chicane. We're already into this racing line, and it's from here that the games really start. This fuel save already needs to be on the mind of these drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll have a little bit, or they'll go out quickly and try and move forward for those guys at the back of the 10. As we see a koala around backwards again. Is that Liam Jensen? 290. Huge accident. Whoa. The Max Boost car. That is a huge accident.
And it keeps on coming, as well as more cars. Well, we talked about having no real need for a safety car. I reckon this might be it. I'm pretty sure Race Control will be having a look at this one, because we've got, well, who's around here? We've got Lashbrook, we've got Doyle. McCrowan's caught up in it. It says James Doyle, probably grateful for his earlier incident, just tries to navigate this. But Daniel McCrowan, well, that's absolutely destroyed any hope at all of him reducing the gap to Reece Wakefield here. But a lot of drivers caught up in that one, and I'm not sure exactly how many really got through unscathed. There were so many drivers that were caught in it, as we see the safety car come out onto track, and we'll have to go back and have a look at that one. Scott Bartine behind the wheel tonight of the M2, and yeah, look, we'll get a lap in here as we see a bunch of cars come in to get some repairs. Lashbrook and McCron with the meatball flags, but Liam Jensen, James Foster, Dean Powell and Reece Gardner all coming in, as well as James Doyle. So that will certainly set back their efforts, although at least an opportunity to get a little bit of extra fuel in there and maybe have it up the sleeve for later.
Yeah, it's if you were already down the back of the pack, jumping in now, taking a couple of extra litres, and maybe being able to buy yourself not a huge amount of need to fuel save could be a really interesting strategy. I reckon if I was anywhere from sort of 13th or 14th, that would be my plan. Oh, as we see there, that was one of the koalas had a really good run on the Max Boost car, and goodness gracious, I'm not 100% sure that I kept up with everything that happened there, but that was a lot of GT3 cars going very fast and a couple that were going very slow.
We'll take another look at the iRacing Designs replay. McCry just gets a little bit of a nudge there, and look, I think maybe a little bit of self-fulfilling karma there, the koala car getting a nudge straight back again, but certainly nowhere near the damage that McCrowan sustained in that. So yeah, not a particularly clean one by any stretch of the imagination.
No, that was a big accident. And talk about the commentator's curse, Jared. You successfully talked about how there's plenty of runoff at this track, and then these guys managed to have
the one section
on an interesting point where where there isn't any, where there really isn't any. And Scott Stevens in the comments is absolutely right. This safety car will be a huge help. I'm not sure whether they're going to get it in this lap or whether there's going to be a third lap on the safety car, but even 2 will be a huge help for these guys in just recouping enough fuel that they don't have to fuel save too much.
So we see Thomas Searle will lead the pack around, and a number of drivers there. Dean Powell has a black flag, which is interesting. That will have to be iRacing imposed. I'm not seeing anything from race control, so I reckon an issue with the entry or the exit to the pit lane for Dean Powell. So that's just insult to injury for him, unfortunately.
Yep. No, I couldn't agree more. That'll be exit. If you pick up one on the entry, you serve it in that pit stop. So I can't imagine how disappointing it would be to get your pit stop done, and then under safety car conditions do something that violates the T's and C's of the pit lane on the way out. But alas, that's what he's done, and yes, he will have to. He'll have to get that served.
It's the view from Dean Powell, incidentally, as he comes through, and you can see already one car. But have a look at this as it just piles up in front of him. Just barely sneaks through, or not quite actually, makes a bit of contact there with Lashbrook on the way through, but geez, nowhere to go at that point of the track. And you can see one of the what was that, Troy Maguire, I think, off to the side there, suffering with a bit of damage as well, as we get confirmation the safety car will come in at the end of this lap. So this is going to make a huge difference to the fuel situation, and I think the one to watch will probably be Reese Wakefield. We know that he's very much adept at saving fuel. We might jump on board and just see what we can see in terms of how he's taking this lap. And you can see just cruising along, 5th gear, so very low revs, and just trying to use as little fuel as he possibly can on the way around here without dropping too far out of the safety car line. Finds himself in 6th, so he's not doing too badly out of all of that, but we want to get a move on and keep pushing up through the field if he wants to take out a double win here tonight to cap off his season. Yeah,
look, Reese has got the pace. There's still a lot of laps here to go. This will probably save them. Jeremy told us that he needed to save 1 lap of fuel. That means that they can probably do 14 laps at full pace. This probably does that for them. This safety car, this probably allows them to get through to lap 16 at least, and then be able to run for home. But these guys will all be doing their very best to conserve fuel, and of course some of them will be better at that than others. It's interesting to see some of the cars, really putting some effort into their tyre warming, and others just happy to cruise along. I'm not 100% sure necessarily what the best strategy's, going to be. But the safety car will be in this lap, and we're going to see the guys get back to racing, and we should get to see which one of those strategies is going to be the most successful.
in amongst all of the madness, a huge shout out to Christian Kachenko, who currently holds the fastest lap of the race at 3 minutes 24 and 15 seconds. You know what? Take it, Christian. Absolutely. Why not, mate? Never hurts to hold the fastest lap here and there.
No, and back in the day, when we used to hand out fastest lap bonus points, I reckon Christian would have been pretty hopeful that the race stopped
pretty ambitious
right about now.
Yeah, look, we haven't had a red flag yet, and I can't imagine we'll ever have anything occur that's big enough to justify a red flag to a race. But you know, now that I've said that, maybe the next 27 laps will deliver something a bit special. Who knows?
Who indeed knows, Jared? We have seen the safety car pull away from the field. Everybody will be grouping back up right to the very back of this train. We have all 20 cars in a row. And gee whiz, doesn't 80 k's an hour look pretty slow here at Monza?
You compare that to the usual run down this straight, it's absolutely crawling, isn't it?
Yes, it absolutely is. We do see the safety car is now in the pits, and we hand over to Thomas Searle in first place to make the decision on when he wants to go. I think that it's going to be somewhere about the middle of Parabolica when he feels like he can get away without any sort of wheel slip. And he is going to try and put a nice little gap between himself and Mick Whiting before we do get down to turn one. Here he goes. Look at that. He's absolutely caught Michael Whiting having a bit of a snooze. And he has immediately jumped himself out to a half a second lead. So that's going to be really helpful on the run down towards turn one. As we see here, Patrick Frame's got the run. He's going to try and take the outside. And it'll be interesting to see whether Patrick Frame pushes it to too wide through the first corner again.
And this is always interesting, right? The tyres are still relatively cold, so there's perhaps not as much grip as one of these guys might like to have in them by this stage. But it looks like we've got through pretty cleanly. Mick Polly's right there in fifth, right in behind Trent Thomas. Reece Wakefield, though, alongside him. And towards the back of the field, you can see a few of the drivers just trying to recover from that early incident. At the moment, though, Searle out to 1.2 seconds. He's making the most that he absolutely can of that jump that he got on the rest of the field. And Patrick Frame gets through on Whiting. You see Kachenko just going a little bit wide there, and look at Searle start to pull away. This is going to be really hampering the efforts of a few drivers back in this pack. As we see Michael Whiting now gets the move back on. Patrick Frame comes up the inside. Reece Wakefield's going to try and follow him through as well, though. And we are still side by side for a lot of this chasing group. Wakefield just can't quite hang with it at the moment, so he's had to drop back alongside Polly still as they try and negotiate this. I think Mick Polly probably in a better position as they come to this. Again, a little bit of a touch there for Patrick Frame and Whiting. Whiting goes up and over the sausage curb. That's going to cost him a bit of momentum. Can Thomas capitalise here? I don't think he can. He's backed out of it a little bit, but that's allowed Polly to close the gap, and all of a sudden we are back into this one long race line from second all the way back to 17th with Kachenko at the back of it.
Tell you what, if you're Thomas Searle at the moment, you look in your mirror and you are awfully happy to see these guys fighting. From the moment that he put his foot down and just caught Michael Whiting slightly unawares, it has been smooth sailing for Mr. Searle. He has absolutely bolted. And he will be doing his very best to make hay while the sun shines out there, in the hope that it takes Reece Wakefield a little bit longer to get through this pack. Although Reece, I'm sure, is also acutely aware of the fact that Daniel McCrowan was caught up in that initial incident and is well back in the pack. And really now for Reece, all that he has to do is circulate. He will naturally slowly pick people off in this group and continue to move forward, but he certainly doesn't need to panic.
I don't know. I reckon this is a pretty dangerous spot for Wallace. There we go. A little bit of contact from Wakefield, and Thomas goes around. So he'll be off into the kitty litter, and Wakefield falls back. And in the background, it looks like Lucas Baker's ended off the track as well. Just going a bit wide with perhaps with Dean Powell involved in that as well. But Wakefield finds himself dropping back a couple of positions as a result. I was about to say this is actually a pretty dangerous time for Wakefield. He does need to keep circulating. He does need to make it around the track for this race. But being caught up side by side for so long, it just increases the risk of something going wrong. And that was very nearly it for Reece Wakefield, I suspect. and maybe just time for him to settle back into the line and not go side by side for a little while. Just calm the nerves after that one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see there. It was difficult to tell from that view whether that was, Trent not realising that Reese was there or Reese making a mistake. It's probably at this point, equally as likely to be either of those things. Reese will be hoping for sure that he doesn't get a penalty. But what we see here is Trent's under attack, and Reese Reese has the opportunity. He gets the move done. He's got the adequate overlap on that first car that he was trying to pass, and I'm just not 100% sure that Trent had an opportunity to, check his mirrors at that point and see. And unfortunately, those situations where there's two cars wide, just never ever make us, feel warm and fuzzy, because they just don't seem to work.
This is Lucas Baker going around. I think he's done that pretty well by himself under brakes. I think that McCrowan and Lashbrook both get caught up in it as well. So Baker ends up sitting off the track with Trent Thomas at that point. I don't know if there was anything called through on the... look at all the debris getting flicked up on this car as they come through.
There's a lot of rocks.
There's a lot of rocks out there, and that paintwork is going to be looking very sorry for itself by the time we get to the end of this race, because that's going to take a few laps to clear up. I think we're going to see what may as well be confetti thrown in the air off these racing slicks for a little while to come yet.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is one of the interesting things about iRacing. A couple of cars stick their tyres hot and sticky in the gravel trap. They come back out onto the track, and we do get gravel everywhere. It'll only take a couple of laps to clear up though. But those racers who really have their graphic settings turned up, they'll be getting all sorts of interesting things thrown at them as they traverse that part of the track.
It doesn't sound great either. I can tell you, as someone who's spent a lot of time in the kitty litter around pretty much every track on the iRacing calendar, you absolutely hear it when you run into the kitty litter or when you run over kitty litter on the track as well. Just in case anyone was wondering.
Absolutely, you do.
Ian Ward under track. Reese Wakefield's going to go up the inside and pick up another spot here. Behind them, Mitch Curry and Liam Jensen were side by side down the front straight, but Curry's managed to hold on to that. Now he's going to go on the attack and try and take Ian Ward as they get into very close proximity, trying to follow Reese Wakefield as he desperately tries to latch onto the back of Mick Poley and make his way back up through the field again. It's starting to space out at the front end of this just a little. Thomas Searle out to 4 seconds, a couple seconds back from Patrick Frame to Mick Whiting as well. So those couple of early incidents making a significant difference to the flow of this front end of this racing pack.
Yeah, absolutely. And Thomas is certainly no slouch, but he isn't. He is, not looking to go back to the pack. That's for sure. But we do continue to have this fantastic Monza train. Our screen shows it as a battle for fifth, but yeah, it's a pretty big battle pack, and it's probably not going to take long, to be honest, to sucker Washington and Whiting back into it.
It's one of those times where I have to remind myself I do have the ability to expand that battle box and push it out to 10 or 20 cars, because that's how it feels at some tracks at some times, as we see Washington get up the inside of Whiting. Washington actually at the moment holding the fastest lap of 46.59. But keep in mind that a lot of these drivers are probably still thinking about fuel saving. They won't need to consider it quite so much now, but it's almost hard to turn that thought process off a little bit, isn't it, once you get into the race? Even with the safety car, if you're already thinking about maintaining a particular time and trying to save a bit of fuel, you do tend to stay in that just a little bit longer than perhaps you need to.
Yeah,
maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me.
No. I think one of the things that that I mentioned pre-race, Jared, that would still be in a lot of these people's minds is that at the end of the day, every milliliter of fuel that you save on track is a milliliter that you don't need to put in the car in the pits. So a lot of these GT3 races turn into fuel-saving races anyway, just by virtue of the fact that you've got to do a pit stop. So you might as well save as much fuel as you can and a really good opportunity, having had a safety car. You don't have to fuel save now to make it home, so you can engage in the battles that are around you, while also saving fuel.
We'll see a couple of time penalties coming through.
Yeah, including one for car one.
Yeah, look, not massively surprising, honestly. I think, it's a pretty clear-cut one, and 5 seconds won't worry Wakefield too much. He really just needs to get home here. Unfortunately, Danny McCrowan all the way back in 13th and struggling a little bit to get back into it. Unsurprisingly, he's tucked in behind Reece Garner at the moment, but it's look, I can't see any way to salvage much more in the way of points for McCrowan at this stage. He's going to have to be pretty content to just to come home with a relatively disappointing final race result, but still taking P2 in the championship. It's a bit of a complex set of emotions to be dealing with, isn't it? When you've had a great season, you finish up the top end of the championship, but this is how you finish your racing season. It's not how any driver wants it to go.
No, it's not, and you always want to finish on a high. I've got no doubt that Reece will be feeling the same way. I have the pleasure of knowing Reece quite well, and regardless of whether of the malice involved in spinning Trent Thomas, and to be honest, I don't think that there was any. I think there was just an unfortunate situation where, because of the battling cars going on, Trent slowed a little bit more than Reece expected. Reece was there when Trent didn't expect all of those things. Reece deserves the penalty. There's probably no doubt about that. But Reece will be disappointed. And yes, I think you raise a good point that the two guys that are 1 and 2 in the championship are probably going to be ever so slightly flat when it comes to their final race result. As we do here see a replay. Trent Thomas taking the quick layer. There's no doubt about that. He will get a dirty great big slowdown for that and fall back into position where iRacing deems suitable.
Yeah, they do tend to penalise that one pretty heavily. I think it's something like a 20 or 30 second slowdown, isn't it? It's massive.
I can't remember. You typically, it works out to be roughly the same as most other cuts, because that one, unlike a lot of other cuts which are a penalty for, going slightly off track, Adelaide's a great example. The turn 1-2 chicane at Adelaide, if you're a couple of millimetres too far to the right, you'll get a slowdown. That one is genuinely a cut section of track, and so you do need to serve quite a big slowdown in order to, put yourself back to where you would have been, and then serve a small penalty as well.
Well, we'll take a look out in front, because Thomas Searle is enjoying a 4.5 second gap, or near enough to it at the moment. And look, it's probably worth noting that he's made the absolute most of starting up the front here for race number 2. Got off to a massive start, and then a huge jump on the pack as well. And look at him go, it's still climbing. You've got to wonder whether some of the drivers, a couple spots back from here, maybe could be pushing a little bit harder to try and stay with him. He's not lapping super fast, but certainly lapping quicker than a number of the cars behind him. A 46.68 last time around. Patrick Frame pretty well dead level with that. Jeremy Washington a 46.47. You see Reece Wakefield shoot around the corner of 45.82. So they should be pulling him in closer, but at the moment the gap from Searle to Frame is continuing to expand. So I expect what we'll probably see in the next, probably only the next few corners, is a real lineup starting to form behind Patrick Frame as the faster drivers a little further back start to catch up to him.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Patrick will be doing everything he can. If there's one bloke who's probably not fuel saving, I think that would be Patrick Frame. But Thomas Searle still putting in some pretty quick laps. I'm just having a bit of a look down the list here. A number of people continuing to do their fastest laps of the races, as there's limited need to fuel save, etc. And Reece Wakefield seems to be, pretty intent on moving forward. His laps are really reasonably quick as well. We're going to come to a point pretty soon, I think, Jared, where we're going to get this really interesting period where everyone's going to sort of naturally catch each other. You know, Reese and Jeremy and Patrick are probably going to come together on the track all at the same time. Then you've got the group of 5th through to 9th that are really condensed. And what's going to happen is then we're going to see a bunch of pit stops need to happen. So we're only sort of 5 laps from probably the ideal time to be doing a pit stop. Some people might be able to squeeze out 6 laps from here. But what we're starting to see is cars feel really nice. They've still got good tyres, but they're starting to get low on fuel. And we're going to see this interesting period, where people are going to start to dive to pits. If someone's caught up behind some cars, and they're not able to get that pass done, do we start to see, Jared, some people dive into pits, a lap early and try and extricate themselves from the group and put a couple of quick laps in on their own?
Yeah, the pit strategy will be very, very interesting to watch. Reese Gardner has picked up a black flag. Now, again, I expect that's an iRacing issued one. Probably instant points, let's say, given he's been caught up in quite a few altercations throughout the opening stanza of this particular race, which is pretty disappointing for him, but he'll serve that drive-through and be back out on track again. We're starting to see that compression happen here, and you're absolutely spot on. The 5th through 9th group here really starting to close in. Patrick Frame has Jeremy Washington right on his tail now as well. If Washington can't get through, that's going to bring Wakefield into the equation pretty quickly also. I reckon they're probably going to get, we were talking about lap 14, 15 being the mark they were aiming for in terms of fuel. With that safety car for a couple laps, what do you reckon? Maybe lap 16 or 17 before these guys come in?
Yeah, look, I don't know. I haven't done enough racing here, on this sort of fuel set to know. Obviously, 16 is that magic number that only gives you 14 to home, so fuel saving becomes far less critical. But I think that if the drivers feel like they're doing well, one of the best or one of the things about these cars, Jared, is the tyres just don't wear out. This sort of 50 to 60 minute race, those tyres will still be capable of setting some very fast times at the end of this race. So you want to spend as much time as possible with these cars light, so these guys will just keep driving. They will drive these cars until they're empty. The only thing I think that makes a difference is does anyone come in early because they feel like they're being held up and they feel like one extra lap allows them to jump someone in the pit cycle. We see here Poley right up the back of Liam Jensen. If you want to have a view of a Koala Cartel car, there it is. You're not going to get any closer. Poley backs out early just to make sure that he doesn't lean on the back of Liam Jensen into turn 1. Tries to get a good run through. The race pig is tucked up the front just in front of Liam Jensen as well. This is a pretty willing battle, Jared. There's definitely the ability for these guys to close up on each other and really cause some carnage if they want to.
As Patrick Frame gives up the positions to both Jeremy Washington and Reese Wakefield, that looks to have happened. Just missed it, and it's happened in that one corner. I don't know whether Frame's gotten out of the way or if he's just been caught under brakes at the same time by both of them. We'll go back and we'll take a look. The iRap Designs replay. It's actually down the main straight that Washington's made that first pass, but the pass from Wakefield comes only just into the next corner, but Washington just too much pace down the straight, and unfortunately couldn't really keep it going long enough to not have Wakefield immediately get through as well and start to chase him down. So I can't imagine it'll be too long before Reese Wakefield will be knocking on the rear bar of that ADHD Mercedes, and then we'll see how it all plays out under pit stops.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Patrick Frame there making a really sensible decision. He didn't fight too hard. I know that, Reese and I have had some really ding-dong battles over the years, but typically that's only for my entertainment. Reese is always inevitably going to get past. It slows me up. It slows Reese up. I enjoy it. Reese doesn't. But at the end of the day, it also makes both of our races slower. Being able to sit back and not have any bias in the argument because I'm not involved. The most sensible thing for Patrick to do there probably was just to move to the side, let Jeremy and Reese through. Both those guys are really, really fast, and Patrick will get to the end of this race faster by just letting them through than he would have by getting into a big scrap and, costing them both or all three of them a few seconds. So Patrick there showing a really solid racing brain. He's doing a great job. He's still nice and far up the field. He's got a good gap on Michael Whiting, and to be fair, typically he's matching Michael Whiting's pace, to be honest. So Patrick's got a great opportunity to snag a top four in this race, and he knew the best way to do that was to just slowly, slightly move to the side and let these quick guys through without fighting.
As we get closer and closer to the halfway point of this race, let's take a look and see just how it's gone for so many of these drivers. Thomas Searle still out in front where he started. Jeremy Washington and Reese Wakefield up 6 and 7 spots respectively, with Patrick Frame and Michael Whiting just dropping a couple with Washington and Wakefield coming through. Ian Ward's up 5 positions into 6th as well, so having a great start to this one. Liam Jensen and Paulie just trying to recover from those earlier moments that have happened along the way. Mitch Curry's up 3, Thomas Cool and James Foster up 6 and 8 respectively, with Dean Powell up 4 as well. Danny McCrowan honestly doing a fantastic job to recover as many positions as he had, considering that he was pretty well at the back of this field after that early incident. So he's back up into 12th, and then just a few moves here and there for the rest of the field as well. It's been a pretty eventful start to race 2. We're just about halfway through, and the fuel save question pretty well answered by that safety car period. But now the question will be, what's the right strategy here? Do you go undercut? Do you go overcut? Do you just try and run the car as light as possible for as long as possible, or do you just get in, get your fuel, and get out into some clean air? For a lot of these drivers, it's a little hard to tell what's going to be best, because it's one of those tracks where clean air maybe not quite such a benefit when it comes to just having to push through all of that air at such high speed.
Yeah, so a GT3 car, Jared, the usual strategy is the overcut, because there's no benefit to pitting. You don't take tyres in a race this length, so it's just fuel. So your car just becomes heavier. So normally you want to run as long as you can, and there is some benefit to doing as many laps as possible, as light as possible. Having said that, if you feel like you are genuinely being held up, then you might want to get out of that little battle pack. But for the vast majority of people, if you are in a train, if you're getting draft off of cars around you, and you feel like you couldn't go faster on your own, just run that thing until it's dry.
Yeah, I'm trying to take this all in, but the whole being fast in the first place bit is where I fall over. So maybe a bit of a slight adjustment to my strategy required.
I didn't know where you were going with that, and I should have, because that was the most Jared Cole comment that I think I've ever heard. So well done.
Well, look, from a bloke who last time he appeared on any of these broadcasts of MC Motorsport events while not behind a mic and ended up upside down in a GTE car, I don't know what else you'd expect from me, honestly.
I think my favourite part of that night, Jared, was the fact that you got invited into the booth while driving, said 3 words, and absolutely clouted the wall at
Griffins.
At Griffins, was it?
Look, it was, and to be fair, I think I've got to defend myself now that we're going back to it. It wasn't my fault that time. That was an LMP catching some grass under brakes and flicking into the rear end. But look, what do you do? That's racing. Yep,
and Scotty Stevens has picked it up. A couple of guys have been down the pits already, so they have taken the opportunity. They have gone to lap 15. They've literally cut this race in half. They're going to fill up and now put another 15 laps in. They're probably hoping for a safety car in this back half, or they're just going to commit some fuel saving. But I think that this is the lap now, Jared, that anywhere from here, we can see cars, and look at that straight away. So I would suggest that there was only just enough fuel saving, because I've seen on my monitor basically everyone is in the pit. So what that tells me is that the safety car did just enough to allow these guys to get to lap 16, and now they've got 14 laps to go to get home, which is roughly where we know they had to get to.
It will take a lot of the pressure off for the second part of the race at least, and knowing that they can make it at full noise, it will be interesting to see how that influences their approach to the rest of this race. We were originally talking about really having to save some fuel on both sides of the pit stop, and now it's just not going to be the case for the second half of this race. It really is going to be pretty well flat out all the way to the end. I wonder just how much of a difference that could make, as we see a few cars coming out of pits as Ian Ward and Michael Whiting going through. Of course, both of these guys pitting, well, a couple of laps ago now, coming in on 15. So that lands them pretty squarely back in the middle of the fight. Daniel McCrone and Chris Lashbrook out in front at the moment. Lashbrook all on his own, but we'll see if we can jump on board and see how he's going. Looking relatively comfortable there.
Oh, look at this. He's got his webcam set up. Hello, Mr. Lashbrook. He's repping a bit of Ford merch there. If you hadn't picked up on the fact that Chris drives a Mustang in just about everything, he is a Ford tragic. Good to see Mr. Lashbrook. He's having a bit of a tough night tonight. I've heard him on the radio a few times reporting some incidents. So he's had a bit of a stitch up tonight, but he's continuing to push forward. I don't think that he'll be long out of the pits either, let me just say.
And I can't think of a better word to describe someone so devoted to driving a Ford as tragic.
Yeah, look, Chris knows that we love to give him a bit of stick about his choice of manufacturer. But that's what this country is built on, right? Is Ford and Holden rivalries, and if we didn't have people that were dyed in the wool like Chris is, it would be pretty boring. But he's doing a good job. He's out the front now. He is in the pits now. It's going to be interesting to see where he pops out. He'll have a little bit less fuel than everyone else to take on, so he will get some better. Oh dear. Oh, I shouldn't laugh, but that was a pretty solid whack in the door as they go 3 wide down the straight now. Polly, Jensen and Curry. This is going to have to sort itself out sooner rather than later. We are going to see who is the bravest. Mitch Curry probably in the best position just by the fact that he's on the inside, but he is going to have to get it pulled up, and that Porsche is so good under brakes. Look at that. That is just such an impeccable piece of driving there from Mick Poley. Those Porsches really are something else under brakes.
Almost anticlimactic, wasn't it? I was expecting that to be all sorts of sparks flying on the way through, but in the end, Polly just made it too easy. Got on the brakes very, very late and just drove straight around Jensen's Mustang. But there's still time as he bounces it up and over the curb there, and something that the GT3 Porsches do. Look, they do it well from a pure visual perspective. I don't know if it's great for them, but they do like to bounce over curbs a fair bit. And it's something that we've seen over a number of seasons here with the MC GT3s. There's a few drivers that don't mind testing out the limits of that suspension. I'm pretty sure we've got a photo floating around somewhere of Mick Polly with all 4 wheels in the air over a curb at... Where was that?
Zolder.
Zolder it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yep. Can I just say, just quietly, MCV8 heading to Zolder next year, and that back chicane is one of the things that got me licking my lips a little bit of a look behind the curtain. I typically propose the initial calendar for the V8 series, and then we thrash it out amongst admin. But yes, it was Mick Poley all 4 in the air that sort of made me think, you know what, I reckon a Gen 3 supercar would probably be pretty fun through that chicane. But alas, we are here at Monza. We're in GT3s. You'll be surprised, Jared, those Porsches, I don't know whether it's because the engine's in the back or what it is, but those Porsches are one of the best GT3s at smashing curbs. As we see now, Jensen has another crack as he pulls back in front of Curry. That will be disconcerting for Mitch Curry, having been on the limits as you always are into turn one, and then having Liam Jensen head back into the gap that Mitch Curry will have thought had just been open for him. But yeah, two very different cars here in the Mustang and the Porsche, and probably the two best braking cars in the GT3 field, which is, you know, really interesting because they really do go about their racing so differently. The Mustang in particular just looks like a Sherman tank on track compared to most of the other GT3s, and especially the Porsche.
Just making some notes here to go through and check where I've got my cameras set up when we do go to Zolder, because I reckon there's some pretty good shots that are likely to come of Gen 3 supercars going around those curbs. So we're going to have a bit of a play with the camera pack for that one, I suspect. The other point I was going to make before these guys went 3 wide coming out of that parabolic turn. I've had the distinct experience, I won't say pleasure, the distinct experience over the last couple of days of having a Ford Cougar as a bit of a, we'll call it loan car, while my regular ride was in getting some suspension work played with. And I can tell you what, if the Cougar is any indication of where Ford were towards the end of their manufacturing tenure in Australia, then it's no surprise that they kind of fell away a bit, because that's a pretty bloody awful car to drive.
I'm just going to leave that entirely alone.
Look at Liam Jensen, super defensive here. He really wants to hang on to this spot now that he's finally gotten in front of Polly. Polly's going to have this under brakes, so I reckon. He's going to go very, very late. But Jensen just positions that car.
That Mustang, man, for a car so big, I don't know, it must have brakes 4 times the size of anything else, because they just stop.
How heavy they are, to be fair.
They just stop, and I don't know how they do it. You know, there's like the Porsche has always been good under brakes. That makes sense. You know, the Corvettes are, you know, really sleek sports car style cars. You know, you'd expect them to be super aerodynamic and stuff. And then there's just this thing that looks like a tissue box, and you know, it's got that much power in the front end of it that it goes fast. It doesn't matter that it's not aerodynamic, and then somehow it just stops. And it's really frustrating because I don't like Fords. And it continually proves to be quite a capable race car, which is really frustrating.
Well, I think the answer to that is that there's not actually that much Ford left in them by the time they get onto the track, is there? The shell, and that's about it.
Oh, look, I mean, you still got to buy them from Ford, right? Like the GT3s, they're made by the manufacturer, but you know, as Nathan Allen rightly pointed out, might look like a tank and be the size of a tank, but one kangaroo, that's all it takes.
Yeah, one well-placed kangaroo. That's why we lost the Emu Wars too, to be fair.
Oh, things that you don't expect to talk about in MC commentary. The Australian Emu Wars.
You know what? You get to round 10 of a GT3 Championship. You're here at Monza. Why not throw something else into the mix? We've had just about everything over the course of this championship. It's been 10 rounds of some pretty impressive racing right throughout. Reece Wakefield has just been chipping away at that lead for Searle out in front. Look, I have to think with 9 laps to go, there's a fair chance that Searle can hang on to this. Geez, wouldn't that be an upset to be able to hold off Wakefield in this final race? There's not a lot left in it though, as the gap continues to fall. 9 laps, a second to defend, and then of course the position itself. The main battles though are going on further back in the pack here. Ian Ward, Michael Whiting, Danny McCrowan has done a great job. He's up into 7th, so he's finally recovered and now up a couple of spots from where he started. But geez, hasn't that been an effort for him? The Team Max Boost driver getting sent all the way to the back from that early one. Lucas Baker offering up his Lamborghini for sale after tonight's race, and look, probably fair enough, Lucas. It's a shame to see you out of this one, mate, but it's been nice to see the Lambos out on track across the season. I'm a bit partial to them, so I just might take you up on that. Might just buy my way in.
Well, you couldn't have bought a worse GT3, just quietly, but look, you do you. They sound good.
Exactly. And it's not going to look any different in my hands to anyone else's, is it?
Slow. Yep. Yep. No, you're right. But you also made a good point just before. Daniel McCrowan done a fantastic job. He's charging back through the field. Helped out a little bit. You know, I mean, he would have liked not to have that early pit stop, but that early pit stop meant that his mid-race pit stop was quicker. Chris Lashbrook also doing a great job. the tape only shows him up one, but he has been, involved in a number of incidents tonight. We haven't seen all of them on our cameras, but, to have been through all of that and still at one position, he's showing great speed, and Chris is really settling into iRacing. He actually hasn't been on iRacing all that long ago, and I think that you'll see him continue to improve next season. How typical of MC, Jared, 22 laps into a 30-lap race, and when I look up and down the totem, no less than 5 or 6 genuine battles. And of course, the one that has caught my attention is that Reece Wakefield took 6/10 out of Thomas Searle last lap, so he has taken out more than half of that gap. I think that Reece can smell blood. Hopefully Thomas remembers that Reece has a 5-second penalty and just moves over and lets him through, and then does his very best to stay within 5 seconds. And of course, Reece is going to be going absolutely flat out trying to extend his lead far enough that he can keep a win.
Well, that's the question. Do you reckon with 8 laps to go, he can get out to 5 seconds ahead? Because that's the real challenge for him now, isn't it? He's got the fuel to do it. It's not impossible.
Last lap was 6/10. If he can do 5/10 every, half a second every lap, that gets him there.
Pretty close.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's 2 choices here for Searle. Searle can knuckle down and go, no, I want to cross the line first. I want a win that's a win. But yeah, look, there it is. He's basically backed out there. He certainly didn't put up a fight. And then I think that now if he's sensible, he just tucks in and stays as close as possible to Reece. He does it. He's only got to stay within 5 seconds, right? And then he still gets the win. Jeremy Washington back in third in the prettiest car in all of the field. He's doing very similar times to Thomas Searle, so I don't think that we see him mount a proper challenge on Thomas Searle. Thomas has just got to keep his head down now and make sure that he puts in as many good laps as he can.
Right now, folks, if you're trying to do the mental math, let me save you from it a little bit. The top 3 here should not change in terms of who is sitting in the top 3. It's just going to be a question of where Reece Wakefield sits once that 5-second penalty is applied. Realistically, though, I can't see Patrick Frame getting close enough at this point to feature on the podium post-race. So it'll really just be a question of whether Wakefield can pull away from Searle and Washington far enough that he stays out in front of this field. It's going to be a huge effort, but he's already out to 8/10 at this point. It's not outside the realm of possibility, and wouldn't that be a great way to finish off? Ian Ward's had a big moment there, a bit of a tank slapper, just barely keeps it out of the wall in one hand and then slides back across the track after hitting the barrier in a big way. So he's lost that rear wing. That's going to be really, really tough to keep that going around most of this track, and whether he can actually get it rolling here again or not as he waits for Latchbrook to come through. You'd have to expect him to go in and get some repairs done, but that car is not in a good way at all. Look at how much it's crabbing.
Yeah, I was going to say just before, Jared, you mentioned that he lost the rear wing. I think that's the absolute least of poor Piggy's problems. I didn't happen to see exactly what happened there, but Ascari, sausage curbs, controller driver, I can probably only guess as we see here now. Mitch Curry puts on a great pass past Nick Poley. He does a fantastic job of getting that Corvette pulled up and making that move, and now we'll just see whether he can put a little bit of distance between himself and Nick.
We'll go back and we'll take a look and see if we can pick out just what happened to Ian Ward. And I do wonder.
That's a long way back.
Well, that is a long way back. With apologies, folks. We'll go to the slightly closer view. And indeed, I think it might have been a little before that.
It was definitely before that. Have you got something in the middle, Jared? Can we meet halfway?
Something in the middle. Let's give this a go. No, still even before that. So he's had a couple of moments come up in our collection of incidents here, but I think he's just dipped. Oh, there we go. The sausage curb unsettles onto the grass then as well. And how do you catch that?
Unfortunately, I think that may
the wall,
overall
perhaps.
be a symptom of the controller driving. That may have been slightly easier for him to catch if he was on a wheel. But yes, if you get that the sausage curve there on that left inner scarring, the second left, like as you exit the scarring, you actually do want to hit. But if you hit it at just the wrong angle, it lifts that inside wheel too much, and you immediately have a problem. As we see now, Dan McCrowan looking down the inside of Michael Whiting. The two Corvettes, they go side by side through the first chicane. They show each other a huge amount of respect, which is absolutely lovely to see. And Dan McCrowan now puts his head down, and you would expect, with the pace that Dan has shown all season, that he will start to move away ever so slightly from Michael Whiting, and will set his attention on reeling in Patrick Frame.
Well, this battle's not done yet, though. Whiting still wants to have a bit of a go at it, and he's flicking the car around a fair bit to try and stay with him. But McCrowan just so much extra power out of the corners. Gets the power down just that little bit earlier, and it makes a massive difference as he starts to open up this gap. And I think that might be all it takes to shake Whiting from here. Keep your eye on Reece Wakefield down in front, folks, and that gap in particular, 1.8 seconds with 5 laps to go. It's climbing quickly. Can he get it to 5 seconds by the time this race is done? I don't know. If anyone can do it, it'll be Wakefield, but it's a big ask.
Yeah, he put on 6/10 that last lap, so he's in that realm of 5 or 6/10 every lap. But he's gonna have to really get stuck into it. So we'll see. I'm not sure that he can get it all the way out to 5, but he might be able to secure himself a second position without a huge amount more effort.
James Foster and Thomas Cool battling it out for the bottom of the top 10 now. Both of these guys up a fair number of positions. Cool up 6th, Foster up 8. So both working their way through from the back of the field. Hughesy just suggesting that someone needs to slow Reece down. Now, Josh, how many times have I suggested targeted weight penalties, specifically for Reece Wakefield?
Yeah, look, I'm
150 kilos.
I'm more thinking targeted class penalties for Reece Wakefield. So, look, I think that we should see how he goes in a GC4 next season.
I think that'd be reasonable.
I'm not convinced that he wouldn't win, by the way, but the man's a freak. And I don't know how many of our viewers were hanging around in our broadcast. As we see here, Mick Poley is still all over Curry. He is going to try and go around the outside. Oh, Curry lets him through. So I'm not sure whether that was just a fantastic run from Mick or there's something else going on there. But Curry made that very easy and tucked back in behind Mick Poley and will knuckle down and go again. For those who were around when Reece first joined MC a couple of seasons ago, Reece was frequently challenging for wins then. He certainly wasn't able to put together a season, but he did, challenge for many race wins. As we see that replay, that was definitely Curry just out of it and letting Mick Poley through. I'm not 100% sure why. But Reece, when he joined MC, was on a
Logitech G29, wasn't it?
He was. Yeah, it was something like a G29 and a set of TLCM pedals that were, strapped to a desk. And if my memory serves me correctly, one 27-inch monitor. And in the sort of 2 years since then, Reece has progressed all the way through to, now he's in a proper profile rig. He's got a direct drive wheel and VRS pedals and an ultra wide monitor and all of those sorts of things. He has really committed. We see now Curry dives out from behind Poley. Obviously, the reversal of position in Curry's perspective was only temporary. That looked like a huge send, but I think the Poley got out of it early to be able to get the better run through there. As we see now, Curry will be slightly compromised and have to defend this position into the second of the two chicanes that start this lap. These guys would be having an absolute ball in these cars, and they will just be hoping that they get to the end of this race without any more scratches or swap paint, but they are absolutely having a proper battle.
Yeah, I don't doubt that this is going to reverse a couple of times yet before we do get to the end of this race. Although Curry's starting to just open up a little further. If he can keep it clean and tidy for the next few laps, This 8th position should be his as Polly starts to drop off just a little. Shouldn't be any fuel issues for really any of these guys. They've all pitted 15, 16, 17 laps into this race, so should be plenty in the tank, although perhaps for some of the drivers that came in on 15, they might be a little bit closer to the limit than some, as they find themselves in a bit more of a spread out field this time around than what we saw in race 1, and so a little bit less aero benefit to save some fuel on the way around here. But I feel like most of these drivers still plenty in the tank to get them home. James Foster still trying to stick with Thomas Gould at the moment, and he's trying just about everything he can think of, but cannot seem to close that gap just enough to make a move at this stage. So Thomas Gould looks like he's set to hang on to 10th as we get into the last few laps of this race. Reece Wakefield is 3.2 seconds in front at the moment. Scott just asking, did Mitch have a slowdown? No slowdown for Curry. I think he just compromised his exit a little bit too far, and that was enough for him to just back out of it and tuck back in behind rather than compromising the corner entry.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe you know, Mitch banged doors or something at a previous corner and decided that he wanted to give that back, get it done properly. But whatever the reason, he was able to give that position back and then, you know, get set and get that pass done again. So, you know, all's well that ends well, as they say. As we see here now, Washington starting to close in on Searle. These guys have been lapping in really similar lap times, but I think that what we'll see is from about here, as we see here, Washington's had a significantly better run out of Ascari. But these guys now, Washington, you know, they've been doing very similar lap times, but from about here, Washington's going to have the tow available to him. So I think that you'll see these guys spend the last 2 laps basically, you know, nose to tail. And it's going to be really interesting to see whether Searle has the ability to hold on. Jeremy Washington currently 4.65 seconds behind Reece Wakefield. Reece will be hoping that he can sneak out another 7/10 in these next 2 laps. I think that we're staring down the barrel of Reece Wakefield securing the win. Because, of course, not only is he doing a nice job up in front, but these guys will likely start to have a battle and slow each other down ever so slightly. And
even if they don't, look just up the road, you've got Kachenko and Reece Gardner to deal with here as well. Wakefield's already gotten past, and you can see that gap extending as these two start to come into contact. 4.95, 4.96. Wakefield almost has his 5-second gap. There it is. He's made the 5-second gap now. So all he has to do is hold that, and as these two get closer together, I think that's more and more likely. Wakefield continues to extend as these guys reach Kachenko as the lap traffic, and they'll be looking to get past pretty quickly if they can. I don't know that it's going to be quite so easy though. Kachenko staying to the inside. I hope that both Searle and Washington can just sneak through here as Kachenko just lifts and gets out of it, allows them back through. But the damage is done there. 5.4 seconds now to Reece Wakefield with only, 2 laps to go? 1 lap to go even after this.
Yeah,
and look, he's done it, and he's overcome that 5-second penalty, which is pretty impressive stuff, but not super surprising from the likes of Wakefield, is it?
No, he's definitely, you know, he's fast, and hopefully we see another good quality season next year where there's some guys in here who can challenge him. You know, Reece is a fantastic talent, but we do want people up the front challenging. As we now look out the back of Searle's car towards Jeremy Washington, he puts himself on the outside on the last lap coming into turn 1. It's a battle of the brakes. As we see, Washington just needs to settle in. That's one of his key chances gone. Washington is he's a smart enough racer. He'll know where he wants to do this. He'll tuck back in. It's out to 3/10 again, but the toe that he's got will drag him back in. I think he's going to look for a good run here through the second chicane and then try and get a great run out of Lesmo 1 and 2 and maybe get the move done into Ascari. But these guys have got a battle on their hands as they head towards the finish line.
And there's not a lot left in it. About half the track gone, half the track left to go here for Searle and Washington. Can Searle hang on, or has Washington got one last effort left in him? He's running out of opportunities here, but he's got plenty of draft to deal with, and plenty of grunt out of that Mercedes as well. So settle in, folks. This is going to be a very, very close one indeed, as Reece Gardner probably checks the mirrors coming into every corner just to see if he does need to be aware. Look at how close behind Washington is here as they make their way through yet another chicane. Out the other side, Washington only a tenth off the back. This is going to be a great tow that he gets here. Searle's going to stay very, very defensive to the inside of the track, and he's going to make Washington work for around the outside, but there's the pace. Washington gets up alongside. Is he going to be able to hold it all the way to the end, though? That is the question. This is going to come all the way down to the line as we see Reece Wakefield comes across the line. Nothing much to it. Here they come out of the final corner. Who's it going to be at the line? There's nothing in this, but I think Washington's going to hold on, and he does by just a half a tenth over Thomas Searle in the end. And what a battle all the way to the finish, but what a massive, massive win for Reece Wakefield. 6.2 seconds up the road completely negates that 5-second penalty. And he will be absolutely cheering with that finish. Who was that? Just went flying past into the exit road there. Everyone just celebrating the end of what has been a hard-fought season right throughout. A few burnouts going on back there. I think that might have even been Danny McCrowan just having a little bit of fun. Although I'm not sure from the tyre tracks it was quite as intentional as perhaps it looks.
Yeah, but he will, he will have a bit of fun anyway. I expect to see Car 1 have a little bit of fun, and of course that's what this is all about, right? Like we've got through to the end of 10 rounds of GT3 racing. Reece Wakefield has gone back to back. He has done an absolutely fantastic job. Team Max Boost came out in force at the start of this season, and Dan McCrowan really did put a high quality challenge up to Reece. He took it all the way to the final round. It's been a fantastic season of GT3 racing, and I am sure that these guys are more than happy to get to the end of tonight and reset themselves for next season.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt, but we'll give him his moment here because it's very, very well deserved. Reece Wakefield has driven just an almost immaculate season. In fact, just about the only races that he hasn't won so far this season have been the first couple where I believe it was Dylan Shepherd in the Audi showed us that even when you think you've got some quick drivers, there's even faster out there. But nothing taken away at all from Reece Wakefield. It's been a huge season and a very, very well-deserved set of results. Let's wrap up the final results before we do have a chat to a few of the drivers. Reece Wakefield takes the win, 6.2 back. Jeremy Washington, 6.27 back. Thomas Searle, nothing in it there, with Patrick Frame coming home in fourth, then McCrowan and Whiting ahead of Jensen and Poley. Thomas Cool and Mitch Curry round out your top 10, with Lashbrook and Thomas finishing just outside it. Dean Powell, the last driver within a minute, then James Foster, the last driver to finish on the lead lap, with Reece Gardner, Christian Kachenko and Ian Ward all 1 lap down. James Doyle 2 laps down. Lucas Baker and Troy Maguire having a pretty rough finish to their season, unfortunately only completing about half of the race here tonight. And it's been a rough one for some of the drivers here tonight, hasn't it, Josh?
Yeah, it has. It's always going to be like that a little bit. Monza is the sort of track where it's so easy to get yourself involved in a couple of incidents, and tonight wasn't the night for a few drivers. But it's probably none more so than Dan McCrowan. A real shame that he got caught up in that lap 1 incident. And ended up, not being able to really take it to Reece to, for the race win to end out the season.
Well, let's have a chat to a few drivers before we do call it an end to the season, and I think it makes sense for us to just go in podium order. So let's kick it off tonight with Thomas Searle, who joins us in the booth now. G'day, Tom. Welcome on in.
G'day. How you going?
Mate, we're doing all right. I imagine you are probably sweating a little bit after a very, very protracted battle there at the end with Jeremy Washington. How are you feeling?
Yeah, just a little bit stressed out. I've got a heart rate monitor on my watch, and it got to 132. So yeah, definitely stressing and sweating as much as I could to try and retain at least a podium in that one.
And it was a tough track for you as well. The Mercedes, of course, we know all season have been so fast on these tracks with long straights. You did an amazing job to try and hold him off all the way to the final turn, really, but in the end, just a little too quick. I think it's worth noting, though, mate, the start that you had here for race 2 tonight, and getting out to the front, and then again post that safety car, you really did give yourself a very, very good chance of taking that one home. But Reece Wakefield just too quick, eh?
Yeah, obviously, he's won the championship, so he's definitely top of the pack when it comes to full-on race pace. I know that the Corvette's really good on the race starts, as evidenced throughout most of the season, so I knew that starting from pole, if I got a decent launch, I'd be able to have turn 1 to myself, and that happened. I don't know how, but the two guys behind me got stuck side by side through there, and I had a clear line, so I was able to take as much speed as I wanted to through there and just leave them all behind. And then, I don't know what happened on the restart. I waited as long as I could to go, and then it feels like I caught them napping, but then I don't think 4 seconds in 2 laps after a safety car is something that is just of my doing, so I'll need to have a look at that. But yeah, two good starts / restarts definitely aided me in that second race.
Well, mate, take luck as much as skill any day of the week. It still results in a pretty good finish for you for this season. Before we let you go, though, anyone you want to say hello to or give a shout out to?
I will give a shout out to all the Proline boys, especially some of the ones that came in during the season. Alex Cattle, Brady McConkey, Ryan Borg, all trying to help me through mid-season and whatnot. And yeah, just back to all the Proline guys. You guys are amazing, and thank you for being so accommodating and all that to our league expenditures.
Well, a massive congrats, mate, on the results tonight. Thanks so much for coming to have a chat to us. We'll let you go and wipe a little bit of that sweat away, hey?
Yeah, will do. Cheers, guys. Thanks for the broadcast.
Thomasville takes P3 in race number 2 as we move to second place in that race, and that is, of course, Jeremy Washington, who joins us in the booth now. G'day, Jeremy. How you doing, mate?
Hey, fellas. I'm feeling very good after that. That was very fun, that race. A good way to end the season on a high.
Yeah, that battle we were watching for those last couple of laps was a close one, but in the end, coming out successful out of that final turn. How did that feel, getting that drive and seeing that finish line approaching and knowing that you had the pace?
I didn't think I'd have it. I thought, I'll go and try and pitch him in as much as I can, but I want to give him space as well. And yeah, I thought, to be honest, he'd get a run still out of the corner, but obviously with the wide line, you get a bit earlier on the power, and yeah, it just worked out for me well.
And the big question is, the Mercedes coming back again next season. Are you going to continue to rep the AMG, or are you thinking about changing it up?
No, I'll be changing it up, and I'm looking at a car that not many people were using this year, if any at all. So
bring on the Lambo! Bring on the Lambo! I'm all for it.
I'm not going to say just yet. I don't want to give away too much.
Josh and I have been discussing my love of the Lamborghini because it sounds great rather than it necessarily being quick. But who knows, mate? We'll see what you bring back for next season. An awesome result for you tonight. A great season overall. We'll take a look at the final points in just a moment and see just where you ended up. But before we do let you go, anyone you want to say hi to while you're here?
Yeah, just mostly my team. Josh especially. But no, the boys have been great welcoming me on board, and there's been times this year, with Chris and Piggy, who have been able to help me out a lot, and James and Ryan in races. So it's been good being part of a group that, even though we're often getting molested by koalas, we're doing our best and we're having good fun. And of course, Monte Cristo, who's watching, big shout out to him as well.
I am absolutely going to clip that sentence completely out of context at some point. It's going to come back to bite you. But for tonight, Jeremy, congrats on an awesome race, mate, and well done on a season overall. Looking forward to seeing you back in amongst it for next season, hey?
Thanks, Jared, and thanks for the comms this year. You've been great. It just keeps getting better and better every season. It's fantastic to watch back.
Can't do it without the drivers putting on the show, mate. Thank you. Jeremy Washington there takes P2 in the second race for this evening. Which leaves us really only one man to to speak to here, Josh, and it is, of course, tonight's Race 2 winner, the Race 1 winner, and, of course, the season champion. It is none other than Reese Wakefield, and he joins us now. G'day, Reese. Welcome back for what I reckon is probably the 10th time this season in the comms booth post-race, mate.
It feels like that, doesn't it?
Well, look, it's I can't think of any races where we haven't spoken to you afterwards, but that's not a bad thing, mate. It's been a huge season for you. Adelaide, okay, yeah, look, Adelaide, there is that. Adelaide does have a way of doing that to. Does have a way of doing that to people, doesn't it? Adelaide's been an interesting one every time we've gone there, but no such issues tonight, despite the turn 1 chicane offering the potential for it. Mate, a massive drive for you coming back through the field for race 2, and then to extend. We were counting down to whether or not you were going to actually make up that 5-second penalty you were carrying, and in the end, the battle between Washington and Searle, just what the doctor ordered for you, a 6-second gap keeps you on top to finish off what has been a pretty amazing season. How did you feel about that second race?
Yeah, look, that second race I was scared. I was very scared going into turn 1. I didn't know what was going to happen. I let off super early, and thankfully I did. I think I would have ran up a Koala Cartel Mustang if I didn't. But yeah, that second race, it was quite difficult to start with. I think I made up a couple of positions, and then yeah, unfortunately turning, I think it was Trent or Reese, I can't remember who it was, into the second chicane, which gave me the 5-second penalty. It also dropped me back a couple spots, and I'm like, I needed to push from there. I wanted to fuel save, but after getting the 5 seconds, I'm like, I just need to push. I need to pass as many cars as I can, and then eventually I got to Jeremy, who was in P2 before we needed to pit, so he was running pretty good pace up until the pit stop, and so I just sat behind him for a bit and did conserve a little bit of fuel, which I was quite happy, quite fortunate for, because I think after the pit stop, I had 51.8 litres and the Corvette's fuel tank is 52, so luckily for a couple of little fuel save laps, it got me to under one tank, one stop, and then I jumped ahead of him in the pit stop. And I said, okay, time to really knuckle down and try and push to get Searle here, because I either need to finish 5 seconds ahead of him or 5 seconds ahead of the people behind me. So that's what I did. I just head down, foot to the floor, chase after Searle, and I got around him, and I'm trying to do the math in my head as I'm going down the front straight every lap, because I think I was 5 to 6 tenths quicker than both of them every lap. So I'm like, am I gonna make 5 seconds? I didn't think I was going to, but fortunately they were battling in the end, and that got me over the line.
Yeah, and look, it wasn't even close in the end. Another second on top of that certainly doesn't hurt things either, mate. So it really just it caps off what a massive season it's been for you, and just how dominant it's been again. I guess the question for me is, are you back again next season? Does the rest of the field have to resign themselves to watching you 10 seconds up the road, or are we going to actually see you back in a GT4 like everyone keeps threatening?
To be honest, at the start of the season, I pondered not coming back next season, because I got a lot of stuff coming up shortly outside of MC. And I think it was only a couple rounds ago, I'm like, yeah, I'll come back. So you'll definitely see me next season trying to go back to back to back. So, but in saying that, I do hope more people join up so we can have some crazy battles here on a Monday night.
You're making it very hard for me to not have to go and have an argument with the wife about why I need a new CPU to handle 60 cars on track every single week, right? But, if that's what we have to do to make sure we keep bringing the broadcast to you, then so be it. So there's the challenge out to everyone out there. Get amongst it just to make my life difficult for broadcasts. I would very much appreciate it. It's not a bad thing, though, right?
Is it difficult, or would it be entertaining to see someone actually not blast away 10 seconds ahead?
I mean,
I think it's kind of boring, to be honest. Like it's boring watching me be 10 seconds ahead of the road. I want to fight someone for like 5 laps.
Look, I tell you what,
only 5.
I'll put in a few calls and we'll see who we can bring back in, and maybe even your teammate Dylan would like to come back and have a word about that as
maybe.
well, hey? We'll see
Maybe.
how it all turns out for next season. But, mate, as far as this one goes, you've kept that number one on the door once again. A huge season, massive set of results for you throughout the season, and very, very well deserved. Before we let you go, anyone you want to say hi to or shout a bit of thanks out to for what has been another incredible season for you at OPR?
Obviously, shout out to the boys over at OPR. Again, I'll say it every time I'm in here. Every week, every day with them, I just keep getting pushed to my limits, and I'll never stop. Pretty much, because there's always room to grow. So, big shout out to the boys at OPR. I also want to shout out our sponsors, Simrigs, for keeping us going on our beautiful rigs. Wouldn't be on track without them. A couple new ones for 2026. We got Gamma Flare, which we're looking forward to working with for this year. A good company who's back in OPR, and the biggest one of all, we're now technical partners with Motec. So big shout out to Motec for keeping us all in the loop with every bit of data that we need. So huge shout out to OPR and all of our sponsors. Big shout out to everyone at home that watches this, including my little fan base. So big shout out to you guys tuning in every Monday to watch some great GT3 action, and of course every week big shout out to you, Jared, for putting on such a phenomenal broadcast. I dare say I'll stand by this, this is the best looking broadcast in OCE, so keep doing what you're doing, and I'll be looking forward to seeing what you come up with next season.
Well, pressure's on. I'll have to come up with something pretty special, but mate, it's made very, very easy by the quality of racing that we get to cover each and every week. So a massive thanks to you and to every other driver that's been out on track for another awesome season. We're going to let you go and celebrate another championship race. Well done, mate, and looking forward to seeing you back on track very, very soon.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Reece Wakefield there takes the win and wraps up another massive season of racing. We'll take a look at the final points, and of course there'll be a little bit of shimmy in this as we get to all of the post-race wrap up, but just undisputed. Reece Wakefield out in front by, what's that, 130 odd points in the end. A huge season, and it's hard to properly communicate to anyone who hasn't been following this season right throughout just how big of a gap that is when you consider that the gap in points between positions is only 2 or 3 points per race. It's a massive winning margin to build up, Josh.
Yeah, it is, and Reece has done a really fantastic job this season. So it's a credit to him. Daniel McCrowan, Thomas Searle, Jeremy Washington have all put a fantastic year in as well. Michael Whiting rounding out the top 5. Probably not a name that we've seen jump to the top of any particular race results, but Michael Whiting showing,
mate.
Yeah, I was going to say Michael Whiting doing a really good job of just showing what good quality, consistent driving looks like, and of course Liam Jensen absolutely taking home the AM Cup and just making everyone else around him, or certainly in that AM Cup championship look, silly's not the right word, but he has certainly dominated that portion of the championship. So congratulations to Liam. There's a nice little trophy coming his way for that, and just quietly, I don't think that will allow him to qualify for the AM Cup again next season.
I suspect that even if by some strange turn of events that Liam was to end up technically qualifying for the AM Cup next season, I'm pretty sure there'd be some kind of veto on that, because it's clearly not the same league this time around. And look, we expected that this season, right? It's the first time that this AM Cup's been run in this format, and with the amount of drivers that changed between this season and the last, it did end up with a bit of a scattered approach to how the AM Cup competitors were decided, but that's often the way it goes the first time around. And Liam's been the been the beneficiary of that in a big way this season. He certainly won't be next season, I can tell you that much.
No, absolutely not. But there are some other changes to come next season. It's going to be exciting.
And on that note, tell us a bit about it, Josh. You're, of course, very heavily involved in the admin side of MC Motorsport. So while you're here, give us a teaser of what's left to come over the next couple of seasons. We've got, obviously, the MCV8s coming back again with domains to you, and, of course, Easy Motorsport Spares continuing to cover the sponsorship of the GT3 Championship for next season.
Yeah, absolutely. So this Monday and Wednesday night, style of racing has worked really well for us at the start of this year, so we are going to stick to that. Before I talk too much about the next season, just a really quick shout out to the boss man MC himself. Not feeling the best at the moment. He raced tonight, but is a little bit unwell, and so he has left me in charge of spruiking our next season. We do now have a couple of weeks off for the GT3s. Obviously, the MCV8 still wrapping up on Monday next week, but April 13 and April 15 we get going again, so a couple of weeks off, but then into another 10-week round. Probably the biggest change coming up for us, Jared, is both our Monday and Wednesday night series. We're going to split into 3 categories, not just 2. And we're going to really try and drive those series in a more even manner. So really, the big message is, if you've raced with us, and you were in that mid-pack and you were having great battles, but you didn't get anything to show for it at the end, come back. If you're thinking about joining up and you're not sure if you're fast enough for us, join up. There's plenty of room. We love having people of all speeds on the grid here at MC. Next season, Pro Am, and Am. We continue to offer prize money as a part of MC. It's not that expensive to race with us. It works out at $3 a week, which, considering the quality of Jared's broadcast and the fact we've got live MC and all that sort of stuff, it works out to be a really good value for money proposal. But 10 rounds next season of GT3, going to some pretty cool places. Laguna Seca makes its MC debut, back to Imola, Spa, that's pretty, absolutely a part of, GT3 lore. Motegi, Zolder, Road America, Watkins Glen, just a bunch of fantastic tracks to race at next season. If you want to know how to do it, jump in the Discord, come and hang out with us. There's a bunch of people in there every single day, just having a good time, but we will help you get up and get racing. There is qualifying for each of those 3 different championships on the weekend before, so that's going to be something like the 10th and 11th of April, if my memory serves me correctly, and GT3 racing from April the 15th.
So much racing still to come, and so much just so much promise for next season for both series with MC. It's been a massive pleasure, as always, to cover it again, and we've seen some, the racing quality just gets better and better each and every season. When I look back at some of the frankly embarrassing first broadcasts that we put on, not for the race quality but just for the broadcast quality, I'm glad that we've managed to lift this coverage to the sort of standard that this racing deserves, because we really do have just some of the best drivers you'll find anywhere on iRacing getting involved in this, and it's a real showcase, isn't it, for just the Australian sim racing scene. So much of what you see covered is, very Europe and American dominated, and so to see, some of the Aussies and our Kiwi friends getting in amongst it and really showing off what we can do down here. It's pretty special, and I'm looking forward to seeing a whole lot more of it. That's going to do us for tonight, though, and it will wrap up this season for the MC Easy Motorsports GT3 Championship. We're not done with racing yet. As Josh said, we do have the MCV8 to wrap up on Monday night, and before that, it looks like the Enduro race this weekend will be the next big ticket item, so keep your eye out for that one as well. It is, of course, all set up in our in our upcoming streams which you'll find down below or on the main page of the Simple Racing Broadcast channel. From everyone here, a massive thank you, not just to MC Motorsport, but to all of the sponsors, Easy Motorcycle Spares, iRap Designs, Everything Simulated, and Sixpence Coffee, for helping us to put on this show each and every time we get out racing with this series, and indeed with the MC V8s. It's always a massive pleasure to have you all along at home, and we do hope that we'll see you again sometime very soon. My name's Jared Cole. On behalf of everyone on the Simple team, do look after yourselves, and we will see you again very soon. It's goodbye for now.